Hey, this is Dan Pohl with Hopkins Golf. And before we get into our tip, I got to say how excited I am to see my old buddy Calvin Peete here. Cal, it's an honor to have you associated with Hopkins Golf, and I know we're going to get some good tips from you today.
Well, I got a few, Dan, as you know. I got a few.
Well, one of the premier short game guys that not only hit it straight as a string, but one of the great pitchers of the ball around the green. And Calvin, we're going to start out today. Now you're in the Jacksonville area, so you play a lot of different grasses, but we're on a little bit of it can be overseeded, but this is kind of a common Bermuda dormant side, and you're going to go about a 30-yard pitch. So you've got a 56-degree Hopkins wedge in your hand with a little bit of a heel grind in it, but tell our listeners and our viewers what it is, the technique of a shot like this, where you really got to control not only the trajectory with the distance, but also keep that rhythm good. So maybe explain to them what you think about and how they can really get better at this distance.
Well, the thing of it is, and you really touched on it, Dan, when you said technique. You got to have the proper technique in order to be able to hit any shot. Really is the setup. Different grass, naturally different lines, different contours of the fairway will dictate the ball position.
Okay.
Which is very important, and I find, in playing Pro-Am, that the average player just really doesn't have the right ball position, so therefore you have no technique if you don't have the right ball position.
Okay. Now, and also if you're watching, it doesn't matter, I think, on this pitch whether you're playing this style of grass. Okay, let's show them.
Okay.
And I know you were built for rhythm, and I know this. That's why I listen, folks. I watched this gentleman. I played with him in those mid-'80s. There was nobody better at this particular style of shot. Not only, like I said, did he drive the ball like a laser. I called him Mr. Laser, So give that little tip that our viewers can go ahead and really pick up on, Calvin.
Well, the thing of it is, which I feel that the average player don't really know the difference between a pitch and a chip takeaway. Now, I'm going to hit a pitch. I'm going to start out with a pitch. Now, what I want to do here, naturally get a good ball position just inside of my left heel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to really, as they say, hinge the wrist early. Because, see, what I want to do is make sure that I get the loft on that club so when I come into it, that I could get it up.
Okay.
And naturally, the rest of it is just making sure that you got good rhythm, good timing, and make a good turn.
Beautiful. Let me ask you a question. You said something very interesting to me, because most people play this shot from way back in their stance.
Right.
You're putting it on your left heel so you can do what? What's the reasoning behind that?
To make sure that I continue to maintain the loft of the club when I come back into the ball. If I got this too far back, I can't pitch it because, see, the club face is going to be closed. That's why ball position is so important.
And it allows you to then to keep moving through the
Exactly.
hitting area. Most of our, you watch tour players and the motion is through. That's because they're allowing through good
Right,
ball position,
exactly.
good posture, those things to do that.
Even though I'm making a very short shoulder turn, very key, no matter what shot you have, you got to make the shoulder turn. The only time the shoulder is not turning when you're putting.
Okay.
But the little chip shot, you still got to make that turn.
Well, show them one more time. And again, we talk about rhythm. This transition and this movement down is so together. You see a lot of amateurs and they move down fast, so they really got to be aware of how that club starts its way down. And
another thing, Dan, is very important on this shot is that the lower body is very quiet. And I noticed that a lot of amateurs, when they set up with their weight too evenly distributed, and that causes them to sway going back. But with this particular shot, the shorter the shot, the more the weight moves towards the left side. So the lower body stays very quiet.
Okay, try one more.
So again.
And just watch the motion. It's a very rhythm. It's like a singing song. 1, 2, everything just kind of stays together. Ball first, nipping it perfect. He's in there, right there in that 30-yard range.
This is the part of the game, Dan, which you already know. This is your scoring part of the game. I'm out there in the fairway 180 yards, I'm just trying to keep it around the green somewhere, But when I get inside of that 100-yard range, now I'm thinking about scoring. So that's when that technique really comes into play. It's very important to make sure you have the right technique. Here, the 30-yard pitch shot. Now I'm going to go just a little bit further with this one. Okay, now what I'm going to do is now we got to build the proper foundation for this shot. The bigger the shot, the bigger the foundation. And see, it's like a house. See, a house is only as good as the foundation it's built on.
Okay.
A golf swing is only as good as the foundation it's built on. So we got to have that good foundation. Here, I'm going to go a little bit further. Only thing I'm going to do here is widen the stance just a little bit more, and you'll notice that I'll take just a little bit bigger turn.
With the same rhythm, the same motion, you just created a little bit more speed by
Exactly.
widening it a little bit. So, I mean, you won how many times on the regular tour?
12
times.
Right.
You were won at some great
including
venues.
the Players Championship.
Yeah, well, at some great venues. So at the
Thank
Players
you.
Championship, you're going to have a lot of these. Maybe when
these.
you hit in and you can't, like I said, you can't reach the 5 par, or you have this where you had to lay out of the rough, and this is important.
Yeah.
Can you relay that, or can you think back to maybe a shot that you had to pull this experience from?
Well, the thing of it is, see, you got to visualize the shot. See, golf is really what we call a visualization. See, you know, I mean, the target is up there, but I just don't walk up there and put it there.
Okay.
Now I got to visualize how I want this shot to go in to that particular flag position. If the flag is tucked up close, naturally I want to hit it high so it'll hit and land softly. But if it's back, I don't want to carry it all the way back and one bounces over the green. So now I'm going to take it in a little lower. So now to show you the lower position, now all I'm doing, I got the same stance, okay? The only thing I'm doing here is that I am not breaking the wrist quite as much.
Okay. You don't want to create
Yeah.
Loft on your backswing
Exactly,
to add that.
on this particular
So really
shot.
the technique doesn't change. You can do everything with the way
Right.
either your hands are hinged or the club face itself. But right now, just take one more. 2 key things for our viewers in this 30-yard pitch are
Right.
what?
Okay, now what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna try to take this in a little bit lower. Ball position is gonna remain the same, but the only difference is I'm not gonna break the wrist quite as much. So that shot is in there a little low, so therefore it's gonna have
Same
a few bounces.
distance, but
Exactly.
just controlling the trajectory. Some
Exactly.
great tips from a guy that has been there, done that. We're going to get some stories out of him pretty soon. I think he just wants these tips for you. But Calvin, great to have you with Hopkins
Oh,
Golf,
my
and
pleasure.
great. We
My
hope this
pleasure.
helps.